Hey folks, over the years there are certain wild edible plants I have come to rely on again and again. Plants that show up in backyards, along trails, and in disturbed ground all over the United States. Today I want to share 20 of the most common ones. These are plants that are widely available, useful in the kitchen, and worth getting to know if you're interested in foraging or wild foods or even wilderness survival. I'll go through each one briefly, where it grows, how people use it, and what to look for. All right. Plant number 1 on the list is dandelion. Dandelion is one of the most widespread edible plants in the United States. It loves lawns, yards, gardens. It's really not that picky, to be honest. The leaves, flowers, and roots are all edible. They're often used in salads, teas, or cooked dishes. You want to look for deeply toothed leaves and bright yellow flowers. And here's a super cool ID hack. Dandelion always has just one flower per stem, and the stems are hollow. Next is chickweed. Chickweed is a low-growing plant that thrives in cool, moist weather, so like winter and fall and early spring. And it especially loves gardens and disturbed soil. It often is used fresh in salads like raw, or you can blend it into pesto or green sauces. You want to look for the white star-shaped flowers and a single line of tiny hairs running along the stem. You can also pull the stem apart to see if there's a stretchy tendon in there. This is called the tendon test. Lamb's quarters is found on farms and scrubby areas. I usually harvest this at a local organic farm because they just have a ton of it. You can harvest so much of this when you get a good patch, and the leaves are actually way more nutritious than spinach. They're really usually cooked quite like spinach, not eaten raw. You want to look for these diamond-shaped leaves with a dusty white coating, and if you touch the leaves, you can actually, the dusty coating comes off on your fingers, and they almost look like silvery. All right, purslane is a succulent plant that grows in hot, dry, compacted soil, especially in gardens and sidewalks. You see sometimes in the sidewalk crack, this plant is growing out of it. The leaves are crisp and slightly sour, and they're often eaten raw in salads. It's also super rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which is very unique for a leaf. And you want to look for thick, smooth stems and fleshy oval leaves that spread really low to the ground. When it does flower, the flowers are yellow. Sheep sorrel is a small plant that grows in dry, sandy soil and open areas. The leaves have a tart, lemony flavor, which is really nice, and they're often eaten raw in small amounts, like in a salad. It's easy to recognize by its narrow leaves with 2 small lobes near the base, which is where the name comes from. It looks like a sheep's head. This one grows all over our lawn and is really best harvested in the spring before it blooms, which is when I'm making this video. It's very nice. Stinging nettle, which we usually just call nettle, is a highly nutritious wild green that grows in moist soil, often near streams or sometimes in rich garden beds. My favorite patch of nettles to harvest from is in this beautiful wet forest meadow surrounded by maple trees. We want to eat the young leaves. Those are usually cooked like spinach or used in soups and teas. Cooking or drying does remove the sting. You just want to make sure to wear gloves when you're harvesting them. You're looking for opposite leaves with serrated edges and fine stinging hairs. You can actually see the stinging hairs on the plant itself. We do not want to harvest this after it's flowered. Burdock grows in disturbed soil along roadsides and field edges. The root is commonly harvested in the first year and can be cooked like a vegetable. Don't harvest the older roots because they get really fibrous. I love to julienne it and stir fry it with sesame oil, super tasty. You want to look for large wavy leaves and round burrs that stick to your clothing. Those burrs were actually the inspiration for Velcro. Japanese knotweed is an invasive plant that grows along rivers, roadsides, and disturbed areas. It can absolutely take over an area and even crack a foundation. The young shoots are actually edible in spring and have a tart flavor similar to rhubarb. I usually cook it very similarly to rhubarb. I use it in pies, jams, or sauces. You want to look for these bamboo-like stems and these broad, kind of triangular leaves. Keep in mind that many Japanese knotweed patches get sprayed with herbicides, so try to find one that hasn't been sprayed for harvesting. Wild blackberries grow in sunny areas along trails, fences, and forest edges. The berries are eaten fresh, or they're used in pies, jams, and preserves. You want to look for the thorny canes and clusters of blackberries in late summer. There are a lot of different species of blackberry, and each has kind of its own taste and texture. I have my favorites, and there's some that I don't like as much. You want to be careful because those blackberry brambles might just pull you into the underworld. They have that vibe. Okay, wild blueberries grow in acidic soils Often in forests or open clearings, the berries are sweet and widely used, fresh or preserved. These plants are a really important food source for wildlife and people, so please leave some for the animals. Like bears, for example, love wild blueberries. You're looking for small shrubs with smooth-edged leaves and blueberries in mid to late summer. There are some actually red species of blueberry. That's kind of weird, but there is. Here on the West Coast, we call wild blueberries huckleberries. I love to make huckleberry jam. Wild strawberries grow mostly in like openings and along forest edges. There's a bunch of different species, so there's various habitats that those species like to grow in. The tiny berries are really, really small, but they're very flavorful and they're usually eaten fresh. It's hard to collect a lot of them, so I'd recommend just eating them alongside the trail. Look for low-growing plants with these 3-part leaves and small red berries. There is a plant called mock strawberry, which has upward-facing berries. They're like not strawberries, but they look really similar. But luckily for us, they're also edible, so it's not a huge mistake to make. Rose hips are the fruit of wild roses and are typically harvested in the fall. They're very high in vitamin C and are commonly used for teas, syrups, or jams. And you want to look for the red or orange fruits that form after the flowers fade. They do need some time to ripen, so give like a frost, for example, can be helpful. Some wild rose hips are better than others, so you'll just have to test out your local species and see what you like. Personally, I really like a species called rugosa rose, which is kind of like a landscaping plant in my area. They're very tender and sweet. Hawthorn is a small tree or shrub commonly found in hedgerows and woodland edges. There's a bunch of different species of this as well. The berries are edible and often used for teas, syrups, or jellies, but my favorite is to make hawthorn berry fruit leather. There's no sugar and it's very tasty. They have a long history of use as both food and medicine in a lot of different countries. You want to look for these lobed leaves, the star at the top of the fruit, which kind of resembles an apple, and the sharp thorns on the tree. Elderberry is a super common shrub that grows along roadsides, stream edges, and open areas. There are several different species. My local one is called blue elderberry. There is also black elderberry. There's also red elderberry. The ripe berries are typically cooked into syrups, jams, or wines. They boost the immune system, so the syrup is a super popular cold season treat. Cooking makes these berries edible, so don't eat them raw, please. Look for clusters of dark purple berries in the late summer, and look for these compound leaves with many little leaflets. Hazelnut is a shrub that grows along forest edges and in open woodlands. It produces edible nuts that ripen in late summer, early fall. You probably have heard of hazelnuts, but they do grow wild, and there actually is a native species here in the Pacific Northwest where I live. They can be eaten raw or roasted and are a valuable wild food source. The squirrels go absolutely nuts for them, excuse the pun. You want to look for these roundish, serrated leaves and the papery husks surrounding the nuts. Oak trees produce acorns, which have been an important staple food in many cultures. There are a ton of different species around the world, and a lot of areas have non-native oaks planted as well, so there's usually quite a few to choose from. The acorns can be processed to remove their bitterness, which basically involves soaking, and then ground up and used as a flour or eaten as a porridge. They're very calorie dense for wild food, which makes it it's extremely valuable wild food. And you want to look for the distinctive lobed leaves of the oak tree and the acorns with the cap. I would say this one's pretty easy to identify. Wild violets are usually found in lawns, gardens, and around woodland edges, and sometimes in like forest meadows. Both the leaves and the flowers of this plant are edible, and they can be used in salad or tea. They're very mild in flavor, and they're a little bit mucilaginous, so like slippery. And I usually eat them raw. You can cook them, but raw is better, I think. You want to look for these heart-shaped leaves and 5-petaled flowers that are kind of in this shape. They're usually purple, but there's also white and yellow species. Those are like the 3 most common colors. This is a great wild edible to introduce to a moist, shady spot in your garden, by the way. It's a ground cover and it's really pretty. Miner's lettuce is one of my favorite wild edible plants. It is a weedy plant that grows in lawns, fields, and meadows. I find it in the park a lot. The leaves are super succulent and tender. I eat it in salads, put it in green sauces, and cook it in soups. It has a very unique cup-shaped leaf like this and tiny little white flowers, and this is harvested throughout the spring. Fir and spruce trees grow in forests and mountainous areas, but you can sometimes find planted ones in gardens and landscaping and places like that. They produce tender new growth in the spring known as tips. These bright green shoots have a bright citrusy flavor and are often used for like teas, syrups, or infusions. Personally, I love to make fir tip honey to have on my pancakes. It's really delicious. It tastes like Christmas trees. You want to look for the soft, light green new growth at the end of the branches in the spring. And just a tip, if you are going to harvest conifer tips, do a little bit of research on what species. Spruce, for example, has very sharp needles, so when you grab it, it stabs your hand. So honestly, that's actually probably the easiest one to identify. That's a wrap, folks. If you are interested in learning more about some of the plants that I talked about in this video, I do have videos about some of the individual plants. And I actually also wrote a book called Edible Plants of the Pacific Northwest, which is applicable to basically like a lot of temperate areas. There's only a few plants in the book that are specific to the Pacific Northwest. And a lot of those plants that I talked about today in this video are in that book.